Welcome back to the NAO show where week 3 is in review and 3 out of 5 matchups came down to Monday Night Football where the Shitbirds played those Cowgirls in Dallas. Welcome back to the NAO show. That's Tank Top Mike and Marky Mark. We are here to tell you a little thing about FNG. Too soon, Marky Mark? I get it. I understand. What do you have on the docket tonight?
Oh, man. I saw FNG in the hall today. Walking in the hall at Siemens and was like...
Did you give him the shoulder? Right into the lockers?
The funny thing was, I told him before the game, I was like, hey, man, I hope you get your first win in week 4. And then I see him today in the hallway. I was like, I specifically said week 4, man. What the hell? So we had a fun talk about all the shit that went down. But yeah, it was a tough luck kid is looking like I'm aptly named as a tough luck kid. So we'll go over the scores and standings and next week's matchups. No trades today. So we'll just go right to it. You guys ready?
Let's do it.
All right. We're going to start with the high scorer of the week. Orlando City FC 163. Fresh Prince 103. I'm not real good at math, but that looks like about a 60-point difference. Yeesh.
You can do that math, huh?
But, Orlando City FC, he finally outscored his projection. He's been projected for a lot. He's been falling short. So he finally hit it and actually went over it for a change. So Mike, start us out on this matchup between Aaron and Sean, best buds.
Yeah, so this one, I think the big story for Aaron's team has to be the 37 points from Josh Allen. I believe it was Evan in chat who has said a few times, can Josh Allen be the same as he was last year? I'm sure he was kind of chomping at the bit, maybe waiting for one more down week from Allen. Didn't get it, so the jury is still out maybe for Evan. But, that's the big story. That's kind of, when you have a guy like Josh Allen who played like he did last year, Aaron drafted him fairly high as well. That's the kind of performance you want from him, so it's pretty good. The other big story from him is the combo of his Browns running back, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, is reverse of probably what you'd think, but it worked out for him again. I think that's got to be one of the coolest stacks, 2 Browns running backs. Not even just a few years ago, that would be absolutely ridiculous. Name another Browns running back besides like Peyton Hillis because he was on the cover of Madden. But he finally hit. This is the performance we were waiting up for from Aaron, and here it is. I told him I was all ready to talk some serious shit in chat about scoring the most points, and then of course, he comes out with a 25-point performance from Javonte Adams, ruins everything I had that I prepared all day long. But that's okay. He needed the win. Obviously, it was a big win for him. And I think he's pretty happy with it. He put a lot of work into that team, and to see him score 160 something points, it's pretty good for him. So I'm sure he's pretty happy this week, even though it was against Sean.
Well, I'm not happy for him. I'll first and foremost tell you that. But I've seen some pretty good. I had a pretty good week, even though I had to lose. 160 points, even if I had a good week, that's a tall order to beat. I like that Derek Carr came in. He did what he has been doing the last 2 weeks. I thought making that trade, that move to put Joe Burrow down onto the bench and pull Carr up. I thought this would be the first week he looked like last year Carr, but he continued his greatness and his streak and got me 21 points, which was nice. And I don't know if you guys know this or saw the news article, but CEH played football Sunday. He actually played football Sunday. He got me 15 points, almost 16 points if we're using Marky Mark's math there and we round up, which I think we should just round up all my scores. But who am I to say? And I like that my number 1 draft pick in the rookie draft is looking pretty darn good as a rookie. Waddle, he got me almost 12 points without a touchdown. He didn't even get 100 yards, and he still had 11.8 points, which was real nice. They are trying to get the ball to him in any way possible. But
I read an interesting thing about his 12 catches for 58 yards is the lowest amount of yards on that many catches since like Brian Westbrook did it in like 2005 or some nonsense.
They were probably double teaming him like crazy, and they were just doing like slants. And he's the new slant machine, like out with the old, in with the new. But yeah, it was a tough loss. Hopefully I can get back on track in week 3.
Yeah, Waddle. Waddle is a check down. He's a check down guy for Brissett. I talked to Mike when Brissett came on. We're talking about Gesicki. I was thinking it might be good for Gesicki, and it turned out to be that way. Jacoby's kind of a check down guy. He looks at his first read, but he moves off of it really quickly, and he's looking to check down to the tight end or the slot guys. So good day for Waddle there. Weird day, like you say, with those little bit of yards, but there'll be better days ahead. He'll get more yak, I think, in the future. It was a good call on Carr over Burrow there. So, I kind of like that. But you didn't have much else going on. You maybe should have started Patrick. We talked about that before the game. You decided to stay put. Patrick could have got you a little bit more, but not enough to get over that big day by Aaron. So congrats to Aaron for his big day and getting his first win, and maybe starting to make a move to do a little something this year. All right.
I'll tell you what, if he gets going, if that team starts hitting on all cylinders, he's going to be a very difficult team to beat.
Yeah, we talked about he was a consensus 4 in all the rankings. Every time it was kind of boring for him. He was always number 4 right there in the playoffs. And it was good to see Hunt have a big day, and finally to see Allen have a big day, because I was getting a little concerned about him too, thinking about some regression. But he was playing like last year, Josh, and had a good day for Aaron there. So, all right, we're going to move on to the next score here, which is FNG 143.48. Tough Luck Kid 141.64. I did not round them because it was so close. It was a 1.84 difference. Mike, start us off.
Well, speaking of math, I was going through this FNG lineup this isn't right. Like, I'm putting it in calculators and everything. I got an abacus out at one point, trying to figure it out. I don't know where his 143 points came from. Although I have to give him one specific, pretty big kudos. He does not leave many points on his bench. There's we talked about last week. He could have stolen a win if he'd started Ingram instead of Boston Scott, but little ticky tacky stuff like that. But he doesn't leave a lot of points on his bench. He's pretty good about that. And then he hit all over the place right where he needed to, specifically for the show purposes. He hit pretty much across his flex. 23 points from Emmanuel Sanders. He stole all the touchdowns from Stephon Diggs this week, so thank you for that. And 16 points from Hunter Renfrow, which I don't think anybody else in fantasy is starting Hunter Renfrow except for FNG right now. So kudos for that.
When you say that 1%, that's FNG.
Yeah, that's just him. Yeah.
That's FNG making up.
And he got that pretty tasty matchup with the Cardinals against the Jacksonville. anytime your defense scores 18 points, you think you're going to come out with a nice win, although I won't steal from Sean too much here. Mark's defense did outscore him somehow, which is pretty incredible. But I think the big story is he held on to James Robinson. I'm sure after the first 2 weeks of the season, he had a few people in his ear trying to buy low, even though maybe that 2 first-round pick price came down slightly. I'm sure people offered on that. And then it seems like Urban Meyer finally figured out what he has in someone like Robinson. 15 carries for 88 yards and a touchdown. Yeah, and a touchdown, not too bad. A solid 22 points. So once he figured that out, it turned out to be pretty good for F&G. Unfortunately, stole one in the end for me, though, Mark. That sucked.
Yeah, it definitely came down to the matchup in Arizona. Who said there is no defense in fantasy football? Because Jacksonville made Kyler Murray look like he was just off. He was not doing what he normally has been doing the last 2 weeks. It was really weird to see that maybe he was playing down to the defense he was going against. That could have very well been. And maybe the whole team was going down. Because, they still won the game 31-19. So Kyler Murray only puts up 18 points when he's been averaging well over 30 the last 2 weeks. And they still won the game. So if it really came down to Kyler Murray, if he showed up, Marky would have won this game because, shockingly enough, Elliott came out to play. He did well. Godwin, he was real good. Kittle lived up to the hype of him. Williams, Jamarcus Williams, that's the name, right? Javonte Williams. I will fuck that name up for the rest of the season. Javonte Williams, he did well as a running back in a pretty split backfield in Denver, and your Arizona guys did not come through for you. But like Mike alluded to, Denver did score 19 points for you, so you definitely picked the right defense to go. And I don't know, man, if you just had Kyler Murray throw another 40, 50 yards, you would have been perfect. You would have been good to go. You can blame Kyler Murray, and you should.
If he doesn't throw a pick, I've got it. That's all I needed was those 2 points. So, yeah, Rondale has kind of been my downfall in 2 out of the 3 losses. So I got to blame myself because I had points on the bench and Rondale not doing too well. So I may have leaned a little too hard on that stack with Kyler. It worked out in week 2, although I still lost that one. So yeah, it's going to be tough for me to make the playoffs going 0-3 to start out. Because I'm averaging, 141 points per game. I wrote it down on the other side. 142 and a half. That's a pretty good damn average, man. But everyone has been a close loss, and in 2 of those, I had Rondale starting and the points on my bench. So I kind of had to blame myself a little bit for maybe trying too hard to get a stack going there. So definitely. Want to congratulate FNG. He had the perfect lineup. Guys like Emmanuel Sanders, Hunter Renfrow, Arizona defense. A day when you score 19 for your defense, you think you should win that one. But he had 18, so I really didn't get much advantage there. So I give him a lot of credit, man. You're right, Mike. He's starting the right guys. He doesn't have a lot to work with, but he's doing with what he has. So.
Maybe you played down to your competitor also, and you didn't take it into consideration because you thought, oh, it's FNG. He'll score 60 points. Yeah, look at him now.
Last week I was saying I'm not even gonna say I'm gonna win this one because everybody has that week where they can just start the perfect lineup, and he had it, man. He had it. He'll come in with 80 points next week and win the Miyagi, But this week he got me. And Sean, you said he's going to get 2, so he's got 1.
2 or 3. 2 or 3.
Yeah, you're getting close there. All right. We'll move on to the next one here. So that was a really close one, but not as close as this next one, where Goofy Jace beat the Pooh Crew 138.
Yeah. Sorry.
138.52 to 137.44 for a difference of 1.08. So, Mike, start us out on this one.
Well, congratulations, Goofy. I am glad Goofy finally beats Ian. Although it would have been nice if the Cowboys defense, wasn't it? If they had, come on. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I did tell Ian I went to bed immediately after the Cowboys interception. He sends me some snarky message about, oh, you had to say it. I'm like, I went to fucking bed. Don't even talk to me. So that was how that game went for me. But I think this is gonna be that's hard hitting analysis right there.
Love it. That's what you get on the NAO show.
But I think this was a pretty interesting matchup between the two of them. When you think about Goofy and Ian's lineup, you're not thinking 140 points or less. We kind of expected a pretty good knockout round here. On Goofy's side, it was one of those nobody really did incredible except for Mike Williams. That was his lone super bright spot. And really, Mike Williams has been absolutely incredible. Number 2 wide receiver overall in standard. I don't think many people saw that coming, actually. And, he can consistently start 2 Chargers wide receivers, which, that's pretty awesome, actually. But it was one of those days where Goofy's lineup was just pretty okay across the board. He had one good enough bright spot. And like I absolutely called, the Cowboys defense had a pretty good defensive game and absolutely let me down in a win. So, what am I supposed to feel about that? Great.
Well, on Ian's side over here, I just want to point out the fact that his wide receiver 1 in the Rams, Robert Woods, the guy that he had been peddling to everybody for a first-round pick at the end of last year, got a whopping 5.3 points. Oh, yeah, and that's not to say that he hasn't had a couple good weeks prior to, but when he needed it, we all know Kupp is going to be the guy that gets the ball. Where's Kupp in the standings? Oh, yeah, he's first in wide receivers to the standings. And then, what the heck are you doing? I mean, God, Ian, you're starting Darren Waller in a flex spot? Haven't you watched the show? You got to freaking get those flex spots better, man. If you could even put... And don't even get me started on D-Hop. How'd you even start him, you idiot? Like, why would you put him in your lineup? Are you just dumb? Have you ever played fantasy football before? Jeez. All right, I digress. I leave it to the Marky Mark.
Yeah, D-Hop was coming in hurt, and kind of a risky start there. I might have moved off of him because, it wasn't looking good all week, and he kind of last minute was like, okay, I'm going to get in there. But yeah, I was definitely starting Kirk and Rondale in 2 different dynasty leagues, thinking that Nuke wasn't going to be 100%, and he sure wasn't. So even AJ Green did better than him. So, and he's 57 years old, a little older than me, I think. So, yeah, the old Pooh Crew there with Ian. He's got some solid scores, but he's not hitting his projections. He only beat FNG by 3.56 points last week. It's been a little shaky so far for him, He lost Cook there, and he had to put in Madison, who had a good game. Taylor's been kind of down for him, and T. Higgins is out right now, so he's got a little bit of a little bit of drama going on there in the lineup. Not doing what he's projected to do every week. He's projected like 150 every week, but it hasn't come through so far. So, Good call there, though, Mike, with Goofy. Nothing really spectacular except Mike Williams. And then that touchdown return. When I saw that happen, I was like, oh, Goofy and Ethan are probably like, just jumping up and down, high-fiving right now. If anybody's asleep in the house, they probably woke him up, So Goofy's just the luckiest son of a gun I've ever met, I think. So, all right, let's move on to our next score here. We've got the biggest ass whooping of the day of the week. We got Tank Top Mike 160 and Swamp Dick 97. 63-point difference, man. Good job there, Mike. Start us off and tell us all the good things about your week.
Well, there's a whole bunch, really. I thought it was kind of interesting that it was about a 60-point difference because my three running backs, Eckler, Kamara, and Swift, were about 60 points. Eckler with 19.7, Kamara with 19.3, and Swift with 20.2. I put a lot of work. I put a lot of, time into kind of getting that kind of running back, the pass catching, out of the backfield kind of guy. And to see all three of them hit pretty good on 1 week like that, that was pretty cool for me. That was kind of the culmination of it all, everything I had tried for. And then, like I said, the 60-point difference was pretty much those three. Although the big story, it's got to be Cooper Kupp, man. Like that's absolutely incredible. It was who was it? Aikman that was calling that game for against the Bucks.
Oh God!
And man, like
don't forget Joe Buck.
Yeah, man, like Troy could not stop gushing over just Stafford, that offense, and Kupp, and like nobody can cover Cooper Kupp, one-on-one, and then bam, another touchdown. It was just. It was crazy. I'm sure Sean
can't relive that. Come on.
But I think across the board, the small little bright spot that turned out to be pretty cool. Like Mark said, Jacoby's a pretty good check down guy. So for the next few weeks, I'll probably be getting a little bit more out of my tight end spot. I'll take 13.6 points with no touchdowns. That's not too bad at all, really. And I kind of expect Claypool to have a little bit more of a bump. It sounds like Deontay Johnson and Juju may or may not be out multiple weeks together again. So, he's been performing fairly across the board how everybody kind of expected to. If you're not super, super high on someone like Claypool, it's sort of what, I expected from him as he kind of matures. He's still pretty young, obviously, but across the board, I had a pretty nice week. I was pretty happy with it.
Yeah, your pretty nice week turned into a shit show for the Swamp Dick and their camp because I think he only had 2 people hit their projections, and that was Sam Darnold, which is looking absolutely amazing in Carolina right now. I couldn't be more happy for the guy leaving New York in that Adam Gase offense that really shouldn't even be a freaking head coach anywhere. And he comes back down to Carolina and actually gets coached by some good coaches, and he's starting to look like a freaking NFL quarterback. And again, on Carolina, DJ Moore is the only other person that did anything for Swamp Dick, and everybody else laid a giant egg. What is up with Stephon Diggs this year? He has not looked. Him and Allen are just off. It seems like Stephon Diggs hasn't scored over. Never mind. I digress. He scored 14 points last week, but usually he's scoring way more than that. Usually last year he was scoring 15 plus every week. It seemed like, and usually you don't see Montgomery only going out there and dropping 6.5 points. So I think Swamp Dick just had a rough week, and everybody just kind of underperformed, and I don't think that's going to be what happens week in and week out. It was just a bad week for him.
Yeah, it was, man. And I got a new nickname here. We're going to call it Hollywood Brown Sheets because he crapped the bed so badly.
I
mean,
feel like OBJ should be in there someplace. Isn't that his kind of scene, like poop in the sheets? Never mind, I digress.
yeah, no, I wasn't going to go there, but is it just me or did he drop like 3 touchdown passes? I didn't watch the game. I only got the highlights of the news, but I think he dropped like 3 potential touchdown passes. So it could have been a whole different ball game. I still think Tank Top would have come out on top though with that one.
Mhm.
So that was a good week for you, Mike. And you're well, we'll go over the standings later. I won't give too much away, but you're doing okay.
You're doing all right
Doing
there,
all right,
kid.
man. All right, let's go on to our last matchup. That is Silly Dilly. And I'm going to go ahead and do the decimal points on this one because it was another close one. Silly Dilly, 89.48. The underdogs, 85.58 for a difference of 3.90 points. Start us off, Mike.
Yeah, this one, I mean, it's tough to really kind of go over something like this because obviously they had so many injuries for the underdogs. McCaffrey went out fairly early. It seems like his hamstring, they're calling it like a pretty low grade 1, so he's not on IR, kind of a week-to-week type deal, but you got to expect him to be out at least 1 week from that. A.J. Brown went out with an injury in the middle of the game. I know, and these are kind of things that are, when they put this team together, there were some pretty good building blocks for them, and to lose guys like that so quick early in the game, it's just tough to come back from. And once you kind of go over that and figure, see that, it's pretty obvious why they only scored 85 points. But, I think the interesting thing here, CeeDee Lamb had his first catch was 44 yards. Needed 45 for a touchdown, but then after that, he caught 2 passes for 22 yards the entire rest of the game.
Right.
When the Cowboys' offense was absolutely rolling. I guess with Dallas's offense, not to get too homer about it, that's what they do sometimes. Sometimes it's just Zeke and Pollard. Other games it'll be, Lamb and Cooper. Sean knows that too. Sometimes Cooper's going to score 30. Sometimes he, kind of disappears. But, a quick bright spot for him, Najee Harris has been a pretty good number 1 draft pick. I think, we didn't touch on it too much, but Mark hit at number 2 and they hit on number 1 pretty good. Harris has been in almost every play. I think it's something insane, like 94, 96% of the offensive plays for Pittsburgh, which is incredible to ask for from your rookie. And then that stat that Evan was talking about, hit behind the line on 70% of his runs, but he's still a top running back. They're 0-3. They're in a rough spot, but they have some pretty good some bright spots. I think any week, really, they could just start going off, and then that's it for the rest of us still. Unfortunately, they might have to wait for McCaffrey to come back. But, I think that they've still got a good, solid team. They just have gotten some really terrible luck these first 3 weeks.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think they're just waiting for the sky to start falling with the rain and the points for them. But for Silly Dilly, I mean, he's starting an RB3 in his RB1 spot. I don't know what he's doing over there. Harris is an RB3. I've said it once. I'll say it again. He's not going to score very many points, even though somebody else on this show thinks he's going to be an RB2. It's not going to happen, but whatever. And Fournette is probably the best option in Tampa, but the backfield in Tampa is a very fickle being in itself. You don't know who he's going to start. Ronald Jones is obviously on our shit list for the last couple weeks, and if I had to start one of them, it would have been Fournette also, but Gio Bernard had a solid game, which may be the end of him because he got injured in his last touchdown in the game. But his wide receivers, they kind of underperformed. I bet he was hoping that Julio Jones is going to come out in the Tennessee and just smash. Especially, you would think he would with A.J. Brown having that hand kind of being hurt, but Julio Jones has been a ghost of his past life, and Tyler Lockett Tyler Lockett is Tyler Lockett. He is very boom and bust. I mean, I think last year he had one game where he had 40 points and then didn't break 7 points the next 4 weeks. So you are going to get what you get out of him. And the good point is that he traded for OBJ, and OBJ on his first week back, he scored 11 points. He looked pretty good. Definitely some upside there if OBJ starts getting some more receptions and more looks. I think Landry's still down, right, Mike?
Yeah, he's on IR, so at least 2 more weeks.
IR.
Yeah, he's on IR. So OBJ's they're definitely their best receiver other than their tight ends, and I think Ruggs in the third flex spot was kind of a toss in. He didn't know what he was going to get out of him, but he was actually his best flex spot. So besides OBJ, which I think OBJ was actually a wide receiver too, probably. You just put him in the flex spot because of the start time.
Yeah, man, our Harris for RB2 is in jeopardy. Last week I think he was 23, RB 23, so he was right there on the cusp. But after this week, I think he's like 37, so he's just outside of RB3 right now, and
right where he needs to be.
And I was listening to a podcast today that said that he wasn't doing well in pass protection, and he might not see the field as much now, and he might even lose snaps to Brandon Bolden. Not too many people know who that guy is, but pretty much a special teamer that might take snaps from Harris. So we'll see, man.
Well, there's rumors that Marlon Mack wants out of Indy, and that he could go and ruin a backfield in New England. So.
Yeah, he could. So, yeah, we'll see what happens there. I'm not giving up hope yet. Harris is still a good running back, but if he can't do pass pro, we all know that's going to keep him off the field. So, yeah, this matchup, man, Dylan sucked, but was fortunate to play a team that sucked just a little bit more. But it was pretty much as simple as losing CMC. I lost McCaffrey in my other league, got that 5 points, lost my matchup. So, it happens. AJ Brown, like you said, too, going out early. They've had some tough luck. So, that's a rough one. But it brings us to the Mr. Miyagi ass waxing of the week, which goes to the underdogs.
The underdogs
or DBs. We'll accept either name. So I had a got an acceptance speech from the DBs.
Oh, very nice of them to send you
Actually,
one.
I got two separate messages. So Evan says, I'd like to thank Brandon for drafting such a lousy team and making me come in here and try to turn things around. So that was Evan's. Brandon came in and he said, I'd like to thank Evan for doing such a lousy job of trading and giving us such a lousy lineup. So it seems like there's a little bit of unrest in the DB's camp. I hope they get over it. I hope that, that they'll kiss and make up and maybe come in next week and get that first win. So
we didn't mean actually kiss, though, Evan. Don't attack Brandon with those big old lips you got going on. Poor Brandon. He's worried about that now.
All right, Mike, do you want to run down the standings for us here?
The underdogs are in 10th place.
Oh,
we only have
crazy.
10 teams in the league.
Crazy.
I'm going to skip over the rest because the only other important one is I'm at second place. I'm sitting up at 2. Me and Goofy, we're undefeated. That interception from Dallas cost me first place. Everything else is really irrelevant besides that.
Holy cow. All right. Well, that just happened. Thanks, Top Mike, with your hot analysis on our rating. Really appreciate the hard work you really put in over the last couple hours,
I slaved.
Yeah. Your points for matchup against the ninth place team.
Yeah, that's anomaly is still going, where you have the second most points scored of anybody, and you have by far the most points against. You're actually only 2 points less points scored than Goofy.
Yeah.
You're 7 more than me. You're 30 more than Ian. I mean, it's just your matchup losses have been by an average of at least 3 points at most. 3 points.
Yeah.
And that's another one, kind of like the underdogs, where you rip off 3-4 wins, scoring 150 points, or your average of 142, and suddenly you're right back in it.
Yeah. It's tough, man. Yeah, it's tough. No.
Well, it looks like, where are we here? The underdogs have scored 319 total points. That's not much less than you, Sean. So you can get the violin back out.
All right, on to week 4.
Yeah, let's do it. So let's go to our week 4 matchups. What I'm calling the marquee matchup is Orlando City FC versus Goofy Jace. Now, Orlando City FC is 1-2. Goofy Jace is 3-0. But we all know that Orlando City FC Aaron can put up some points in any given week. So I called this my marquee matchup. Mike, let's start it out.
Yeah, I think this is going to be kind of a fun matchup to watch. Like you said, he can score a ton of points, but so can Goofy really any week. The one thing I'm kind of watching for on Goofy's lineup specifically here is Tyson Williams. He had a pretty darling first few weeks, kind of a dud last week. He does still have Williams down on his bench. I'll be interested to see if he brings him back up, who he's been scoring, some pretty consistent points, even splitting the backfield with DeAndre Swift. And really, can Keenan Allen and Mike Williams keep up, what they've been doing? If they can do that, I think that, Goofy has a pretty good shot of winning. They get a pretty okay matchup against the Raiders. Like Sean's been saying, Derek Carr's been playing pretty well lately, so that could, turn into a little bit of a shootout kind of thing. A few years ago, you kind of figure that game runs through the backfield. Keenan Allen won't really do too much, but this year I think that, we could kind of see that coming. I think, though, the one thing that is going to get Goofy over the top, if he does, is going to be he has one receiver for the Bucs. And I think that Tom Brady is going to go into New England. He is going to absolutely destroy everything that goes on there. And I think Mike Evans might actually be one of the beneficiaries of that. If Gronk's going to play. I think Gronk could have one leg, and he's going to play that game. But
he also has Antonio Brown.
Yeah,
that's true.
And
I'd start all of them really. I'm serious.
And I figure he'll start him before it's all said and done.
Brady needs 60 something, still like 66 yards or something small like that. He's going to get 600. I'd put them all in. That's going to be insane.
I would have to agree with that. Tom Brady is going to take this Rams loss and shove it straight up New England's backside with about all of his weapons. So I can totally agree with that. But let me tell you why Orlando City Football Club is going to wax that ass this week in week 4. Everybody on Aaron's lineup is going to hit. They have some really, really nice matchup. They got Chubb going against Minnesota, which is also Kareem Hunt in Minnesota. They're liable to go 40 points just alone. And then freaking Javonte Adams in Green Bay, they're going to go into Pittsburgh, and they're going to it's not even going to be funny what they do to Pittsburgh, I think. I think that is going to be the game that they circled at the end of last year, and they're like, oh, Pittsburgh, us, yep, we're going to wax that ass that week. And even to add to Davante Adams, in case Davante Adams wasn't enough, I think Tyreek Hill is going to go into Philadelphia, which is playing pretty good, but I think after a loss, a real big loss, a loss that we didn't see coming, that the Chargers beat Kansas City, I think Kansas City is going to come out there and they're going to try to put the stamp out there saying, hey, we're still number one. And the only thing that I'm kind of questioning if Orlando City Football Club should do is start Brandon Cooks against Buffalo. I know Brandon Cooks has had really good year this year. He's averaging well over 15 points a game, so I don't see how you can take him out, but it's Buffalo defense. And if he doesn't get double teamed all game, I don't know what the heck Buffalo is doing. So he's probably your only question going into this. Other than that, you just set this lineup and forget it and hope for the best.
Speaking of that Buffalo-Houston matchup, Allen going against Houston could be nice. He could get a lot of points early and kind of cruise to a win there. I love your Hill versus Philly call. That's a good one for him. Yeah, this is going to be a good matchup. I love the Brady throwing to all the Tampa Bay guys that Goofy has. So I think it's going to be a good tight matchup. That's why I call it my marquee matchup, because I think it's going to be a good tight one there. I think Cooks can do okay. I got him in another dynasty. He's been my number 2 wide receiver and just killing it. I mean, he's been really good. So I think
Yeah, I don't see why you would take him out.
No,
I
don't
mean,
take him
last
out.
few weeks he's been 15 plus points, but I mean it's Buffalo, so he was the only person on his lineup that I was like, maybe he won't to the projection, but I think he's gonna hit.
It could be a down game for him, but I'd keep riding that horse right there. All right, on to the next matchup. We got 2 matchups with a 1-2 versus a 2-1. And the first one is the Fresh Prince against Silly Dilly. Mike, start us off on that one, please.
Well, unfortunately for you, Sean, you might have to watch Tom Brady throw at least 7 touchdowns against you in fantasy, which that's not going to be cool for you. But I think it'll be cool to watch on TV for everybody else. I think the good thing for you fantasy-wise, though, is that means Damian Harris probably won't really be involved in the game much because they won't really be able to. And Fournette, who knows? I really don't know how much the Bucs are going to be running the ball. But like you said, if you're going to start any running back in Tampa Bay, at this point, Fournette is going to be the guy. I have Ronald Jones in another league, and he got benched pretty quick. And I have no intentions of putting him back in until he scores a bunch of points on my bench. And I'm not going to be upset about it. But I'm not, like you said, Fournette is really the only option there. And then actually both of his receivers, if I remember right, Jones and Lockett came up a little bit injured last week. So that's going to be kind of interesting for Silly to watch for this week. I don't think that any of them seem too serious that they might not play. But, at that point, do you consider throwing somebody else in? Because Lockett's, kind of always somewhat injured. So it's not, anything new for him. But and then you get down into Silly's flex. He has some interesting options, every single week. And can you get him right again? Will he only score 85 points? Probably. Will that be enough to win? I don't think so this week. I think. No, I do. I think you're going to take this one as long as Brady doesn't score 49 points, and he might.
Well, Brady is the only one on his team that I'm worried about. Besides, maybe Ruggs could do a little something against the Chargers, but the Raiders defense is going to get slammed on Monday night. Herbie, fully loaded, is going to just go off on him. It's not even going to be funny. I just need everyone to hit their projection. For the first time ever in fantasy football, everyone just do what they're supposed to, and I think it'll come out pretty well. It all depends on how many touchdowns Tom Brady plans on throwing that night. It may be 7. It may be 14, for God's sakes. This guy is powered up after getting his butt handed to him against the Rams, and it is not going to be nice in New England. He is going to go in there with everything to prove, like he is a rookie trying to play for his spot, and it's not going to be nice. I just hope I can outlive Tom Brady destroying New England. Did you hear that, Ian? Destroying New England. Go ahead.
Has Tom Brady beat New England? Just like in general? Did they play last year?
No, this is the first time they're playing against each other since he left.
So he needs it to get all 32 teams then, right?
Yes, he does.
Wow. Interesting. Yeah, this one's close on the projections. Fresh Prince 122.81, Silly Dilly 120.96. So that's less than 2 points right there, man. That's a close one. I like your Burrow versus Jacksonville. I mean, he should be able to kind of feast, hoping that Jamar Chase is definitely in on that feast, getting a lot of the
You could dump it down to Joe squared also.
Yeah. But it should be a good matchup. But with those injury questions for Silly Dilly, that's a big part of it for you. So maybe Fresh Prince gets back on the winning track, goes to 2-2 on this one. We'll see what happens. All right. So the second 1-2 team against the 2-1 team is FNG versus the Swamp Dick. So start us off again, Mike, if you would, please.
Yeah, I think like we talked about with F&G's matchups earlier in the season, he's going to have to pick a perfect lineup again. And really, we could say that every week, I suppose. But, I think he's got some okay matchups. I don't totally dislike the Lamar Jackson against Denver. It's not as good as normal. And Denver did just, hold who they had Jacksonville to 0 points, but here's Lamar Jackson. He's actually coming out pretty hot at the beginning of the season. But really, it's going to be the same kind of thing. He's going to have people overperform, and he's going to have to pick exactly everybody correct. Really, all season long. So good luck to you again, FNG. I'm not sure that this is the one, number 2 of 3, but.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go ahead and say it's probably not going to be. I think this game is going to be a snapback game for Swamp Dick, and he's going to go back to 500, 2-2 over the year. I think Montgomery against Detroit, he's going to absolutely destroy Detroit. I mean, Chicago doesn't know who their quarterback's going to be day in, day out, so you got to expect them to really depend on that run game. And I think he's going to have a real good game compared to last week. And the cherry on the top of that 1-2 punch in the run game is Derrick Henry is going against the New York Jets. Put 40 on the board right now, because Derrick Henry is going to put himself another freaking throne in New York. It's not going to be even funny. I think he's going to probably put a couple defensive players from the Jets into graves with that stiff arm. It's not even going to be pretty. I think this is going to be a snapback game for Diggs. He's got a real good matchup in Houston. I think if he's going to come out of his shell any week, it's going to be this week. I'm kind of lower on Hollywood Brown against Denver. Moss or Singletary against Houston is going to be a good play. The DJ Moore versus Dallas is going to be a kind of a rougher. That might be a little closer to his projection, but then he's got Tennessee playing the Jets that just gave up 0 points. Just got 0 points last week. So I think everything is aligning for Swamp Dick to have a snapback game this week.
Yeah, me too. You misspoke a little bit there, because Swamp Dick can actually go 3-1 if he wins this one. So.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So.
3-1.
Yeah, he's got Stafford against Arizona, Henry against the Jets, Montgomery going up against Detroit could be a good one for him. So yeah, I pretty much think that FNG will, because I'm not playing him, will go kind of back to normal. And Swamp Dick will get this one. So yeah, Swamp Dick's got some really sweet matchups. Yeah, Lamar against Denver could be a little rough. he does have Sanders going against Houston, which could be good for him, but I feel like Humpty's got plenty going for him to get this one this week. So, all right. So the next matchup, which is not quite the marquee matchup, but it's a big one, and that is the Tough Luck Kid going up against the Pooh Crew. So, start us off, Mike. Tell me why I'm going to win this one, if you would, please.
I mean, really, I think, you have some pretty good offensive matchups to be looking at. I think, right off the start here, the Kyler Murray against the Rams matchup, looking pretty good for offensive. Anyway, I don't think, the Cardinals defense is going to score, 18, 19 points again this week. But I feel like, what we saw with the Rams last week and the rest of the season, you're going to have to go score some points. So Kyler Murray can score some points. So I think you're going to get a lot there. Like we talked about with Zeke, any week he can do what he did. I do think, though, that they're going to kind of settle into a good rhythm, a much more balanced offense, than maybe we've seen before. I think Kellen Moore is probably going to get scalped as a head coach here pretty soon because he is pretty good. It'll be sad to see him go unless McCarthy gets the boot, but I digress a little bit. So I think Zeke will settle down a little bit. I think you'll see him go less up and down all season. But I think the interesting thing is really going to be what your other running back can give you. You can't sustain, someone like Miles Sanders with 2 carries. That's just not great. And, there was a lot of criticism against Jalen Hurts, not getting someone like him involved. So, see if they can figure that out, because that's going to be pretty big for you. But, I think you're going to benefit from Chris Godwin. I really do think that a lot of those, Bucs guys are going to have some pretty big games. And I think you're going to get a lot of points there. Who knows who's going to get most of them? It could be pretty evenly spread. And if I have to guess, I'm going to give the edge slightly to Gronk just because. But and talking about other draft picks, your Javonte Williams at 3, you nailed 2 and 3 because you're starting them right away. They're both scoring you points. Jamar Chase, is anybody worried about his preseason drops anymore? I think we all moved on. I think we forgot about him, really. The ball has a white stripe. Who cares,
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do something out of the ordinary and help the Pooh Crew set his lineup this week. Let's do the Prince's marquee matchup lineup set. Let's go through it. The first and foremost, I want the Pooh Crew to put his money where his mouth is. I really want him to put Chase Edmonds up in there against the Rams. If he's going to be a running back 1, play him like a running back 1. Let's see him do what he's got to do. Speaking about putting money where your mouth is, let's see what the Robert Woods does in Arizona. You think he's going to get 12 points? I think so. You should start him. Moving on down his lineup here. Let's see what that DJ Moore. Not DJ Moore. He's what the fuck's his name? Darnell Moore. Mooney.
Darnell Mooney.
Darnell Moore. I destroyed his name. All right, moving on. And I think you should start the LA Chargers against the Raiders. I think if you do all those changes, you'll definitely come close to winning.
Well, I'm averaging 142.5, and I haven't won a game. And I just kind of, I'm kind of concerned because there's going to be some poor scoring. It's going to come. It's imminent. I'm going to have the week where you underachieve and you miss your projection. But Pooh Crew has been a little shaky too. He's been just kind of squeaking by, and lost that one last week. So he's beatable. But I'm gonna have to average my 142.5 to get him. yeah, I've got some decisions to make. I pretty much got my lineup set, but I'm going to see what happens here. Maybe Henderson will be back in there and can be somebody I can flex in. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough to think about going 0-4 and missing the playoffs. So hoping I can get one by the poo crew this week, man. Ah, man, tell you. All right, let's go to our last matchup, which is Tank Top Mike versus the underdog. Tank Top Mike, tell us why you're going to go 4-0.
I did some research this morning.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. So to begin the year last year, I beat Ian week 3 last year. Just, So week 4 rolls around, just like we're doing now. The underdogs last year are 0-3. I get the 0-4 underdogs. I'm sure on the show I told them how dumb they are the whole time, and then they beat me as their first win. So I was the underdog's first win, also in week 4 last year, and here we are again. As Evan said, time's a flat circle. Here we are. Dormammu, I've come to bargain. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing in fantasy right now. I don't know what I'm going to do. I have no idea what my lineup's going to be. Honestly, it's mostly set besides, my third flex spot, I think. I have no idea because I'm panicking after looking that up. I don't know why I even did that to myself. So I'm probably gonna post some polls. It worked well for Goofy, so I might try some in-chat polls during the week. Maybe I'll sneak them by you guys, and I'll try to confuse everyone so you don't know you're helping me with my lineup. But they're coming, so be ready for that.
Well, on the deep butts or the DBs side over here, I think their lineup's pretty much set. I think they just need their guys to do what they're supposed to do, hit that projection, and that's all they're really banking on. That's all they can at this point. But I'd like to point out a little something, a little reading between the lines, if you will. They did put Gibson into a flex spot, and he plays at 1 o'clock. So he should be RB2, maybe RB1, depending on how much they like him. But if that's the case, they might be a little lower on Gibson. You might be on the trading block and not on it, if you get what I mean. Come to the NAO show, you get hot takes like that. What do you think, Marky Mark?
Well, I like Mahomes' matchup against Philly after seeing what Dak did last night. I mean, it was kind of crazy for Dak. He should have had that touchdown. That was just crazy that they didn't give that touchdown. Dak made a big mistake by holding on to the ball too long in the end zone and giving him a touchdown there. But Dak had a pretty good game against him, and so thinking Mahomes is probably going to tear him up as well. I like Kamara against the Giants. I'd like him to do some things. On the underdog side, they got Gibson versus Atlanta. That's a good matchup there. Boyd going against Jacksonville would be a good flex. So, I want to see Tank Top Mike go 4-0. Sorry to say. Sorry, underdogs, but I really want to see Tank Top Mike go 4-0 so that he can be up there towards the top. We all know that if he's in 4th place, that's disaster. That's disaster.
He's got to be either first or last. That's the only options he's got.
He's got to stay up there, man. We need Tank Top Mike to stay up there. It's a really interesting matchup because the underdogs were like the consensus number 2 in all the ranking shows. They're down there in last place right now. Tank Top up there in 2nd place. So it's a big time matchup, really, because we know underdogs have the roster to win some games. So it's a big one. This is a big one. I'm really looking.
Take out Mike. Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't the professionals think you were either in a rebuild or didn't know what the hell you were doing? Look at you now, big guy.
I remember that. Yeah.
Look at you now.
And a
Staring
certain
down
someone,
4-0.
a certain someone who I may or may not be going against this week also said the same thing not too long ago. So looks like I'm rebuilding way at the top. Well,
Yeah, he made some moves since that time. So he made some good moves, and we were behind him. And it looks like we were right that he made the right moves to do what he needed to do here. So, yeah.
All right, so that's the NAO show. Come back next week and find out that Tank Top Mike went 4-0 and those deep butts were 0-4. Oh, yeah, and Ian, you suck.